Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge i-support nothando enikhombise lona lingaphezu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisupporte njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla.
UMinister waka-Higher Education and Training uDr Nobuhle Nkabane izola zange aphumelele kwi-Portfolio Committee. Uye wabala nje isitori nje ezi-excuse ngoba uyakhumbula emveni kokuthi yathi wayene-independent panel iyamlekelela ukuqoka abantu laba ebaqokile ukuze babe abo-chairperson bama-SETA boards. Ngifisa-ke sikhulume ngalokho kodwa ngibona ukuthi angibenzi ubulungiswa uma ngase ngikuthathele into eyenzeka eParliament ngikulethele yona. Yebo, kubalulekile ukuthi ngikulethele yona uyazi. Kodwa kunevideo engidibane nayo lapho khona i-whistleblower beyikhuluma nge-corruption eyenzeka lapha kuma-SETA. So ngicabanga ukuthi emveni kokuba sengiyethulile le nkulumo engifisa ukwethulela yona ngoba inhloso yami ukuthi ngikulethele umuntu ozosho ukuthi kahle kahle kwenzakalani kuma-SETA ukuze uzoqonda kungani uminister wayekhethela abantu abangama-cadres we-ANC ukuthi babe ngo-chairperson bama-SETA boards. Uyabona mosuzwele whistleblower ezokhuluma uzobe soyaqonda ukuthi what was the reason behind ukuqokwa kwalabantu ababeqokiwe okubalwa kwena indodana kaBaba uGwede Mantashe. Sizothi sikhuluma ngokwenzeka eParliament, at least uzobe sowazi ukuthi kwenzakalani. Ibhlungu into eyenzekayo ngoba lama-SETA inhloso yawo funeka a-train i-youth ese-South Africa nabantu base-South Africa balekelele ukuze babe nama-skills bakwazi ukuthi baqasheke, uma bengaqasheki bakwazi bona ukuzikhandela imisebenzi. Kodwa-ke kubuka sengathi awuwenzi lokho. Sizokhumbula phela ukuthi uColin Malachi owu-president we-Youth League wake wakhuluma wathi,
there's billions of rands that are taken back to treasury every year because SETAs are unable to spend them. And people don't know about them. There's money being set aside for skills development of the youth of South Africa that because of poor planning, they are unable to implement them. That must be addressed urgently because there's a lot of young people on the streets of on our townships every day not doing anything. While we are creating employment opportunities for them, reskill them as a first opportunity, because if you're saying that their skills are not aligned to the economic activities of the country, but there's a budget for that. And South Africans must know that there's a budget set aside by the government of the ANC to reskill the people of South Africa. But that budget, it's end up being not used because those officials who are appointed as managers and directors, they don't plan properly. And if you can't plan, you can't spend. Because we are businessmen, you know, if you can't plan, you can't spend. Now, the poor planning system, those who are deploying government must whip those who are not implementing in administration, because we can't be taking back billions when we're saying that there's high level of unemployment.
Asho Prince Mashele wathi into enkulu eyenziwe uhulumeni ka-ANC kwi-youth nakubantu base-South Africa iyodwa ukuthi abantu base-South Africa, especially youth, they are unemployed, unemployable and uneducated. Nansi nje into eyenziwe kahle efuneka simncoma uhulumeni ka-ANC simshayile izandla sithi yabonala kulomkhakha nihamba nodwa, akekho omesha nini. Abantu base-South Africa, especially youth, they are unemployed, unemployable and uneducated. Uma uzwa nje lento eshuwo uColin Malachi ukuthi kunama-billions abuyiselwa back to ku-treasury ngoba abantu bengabatrainanga. Isiphi isizathu esenza lokho? So sengiyacabangela so sebedlile nabangani babo badla basebethi asiyibuyisele emumva le. Ngizokuveza ke lokho ngoba kubalekile khona ukuthi sikhulume indaba yokungayi kwakhe kwi-Portfolio Committee, sizwe futhi ukuthi batheni ama-members of parliament. Kodwa ngibona ukuthi angaba ngibenza ubulungiswa uma ngingaqali ngiveze le party. Sibonga kule channel ekuthiwa i-Outer igama layo okuyibona abakhavele ludaba futhi ke kudala belilandelela. Ngizocaphuna ke ama-clip ambalwa kodwa bengifisa ukuthi sihambe kahle nawo kancane kancane. Uma kwenzekile le video abayinde kakhulu awudlula u30 minutes ayak40 minutes, ngicela uku-understand ukuthi siphoqwa isimo, ngeke sikwazi ukwenza ama-video amaningi kodwa funa senze i-video yodwa ezobe inayo yonke information esiyidingayo.
Minister, we're going to present to you 7 urgent and practical steps to rescue higher education from the collapse. Number 1, you must fix NSFAS or eradicate it entirely. There is absolutely no reason why NSFAS still struggles to pay students. We've got about 19 million people in South Africa on SASSA and an additional 9 million receiving 350 each and every single month. NSFAS only deals with an odd 1 million students. Why can you not develop an efficient payment system that will pay students, institutions, and accommodations directly? You have got 4 companies here, Minister, that NSFAS pays to pay students. But what makes this even more infuriating is that these 4 corrupt companies don't have FSP licenses. So the likelihood is that these middlemen also have their own middlemen to pay the students. What happens? NSFAS pays the corrupt fintech. The fintech has a middleman with an FSP license. Only thereafter do students get paid, a middleman of a middleman. The second thing you must do is to clean up the SETAs. You must blacklist corrupt board members, Minister. You must blacklist corrupt CEOs. Not this thing you're doing now. Someone gets suspended in one SETA, you take them and put them in a separate SETA. The third thing you must do, Minister, is to support the student debt bill of the EFF. We're going to keep laboring this point until it sinks in. It makes no sense why you withhold the certificates and qualifications of students who owe you debt, because they must use the same degrees to go and seek employment opportunities so that they can be able to have funding. You spend billions bailing out ESCOM, billions spent bailing out SAA. You are now going to spend 700 million rands on a useless national dialogue. Why don't you take that 700 million and bail out the youth of South Africa? The fourth thing you must do, Minister, is to declare a student housing emergency. I hope you are writing together with the deputy ministers. Introduce a 1 student, 1 bed policy by 2027. The state of student accommodation in South Africa is not only inhumane, it's gross negligence. Partner with municipalities, partner with human settlements, introduced a BOT model for student accommodation. Invite progressive business to come, they build, they operate for a period of 15 to 20 years. Thereafter, they transferred back the buildings to government and our institutions. Free education here for you, Minister. The fifth thing you must do is to professionalize and protect workers and academics in our institutions. Minister, excellence in education begins with the workers and the educators, but many of them are exploited. Standardized pay, in-source workers, and reward hard-working lecturers and academics. You cannot expect a world-class education from an exploited workforce. The sixth thing you must do, Minister, is to raise the status of TVET colleges. I'm happy you spoke about it today. We must stop treating TVET colleges like glorified high school. Give them more funding, equip their infrastructure, and market them with the same pride and passion that you do with institutions. By the way, Germany built its economy on artisans. South Africa can do the same. Lastly, and that's point number 7, introduce an unemployed graduate grant. I know you are going to say this is beyond your mandate, but you must lead the discussion. Partner with labor, social development, treasury, even the presidency for oversight. Our young people are graduating, but they don't have jobs. Look at the painful thing happening to the unemployed doctors. Young people in South Africa must be paid for looking for jobs, because looking for a job, Minister, is extremely expensive in South Africa, worse when someone is a graduate. Now, I've got a simple advice for you, Minister. The comrades who are claiming to support you because they are stealing from the sector are not going to be there when you are removed as Minister of Higher Education. When you fall, you are going to fall alone. Therefore, you must decide. It's either you are going to be on the side of students or you are going to be on the side of corrupt comrades of the ANC. This is why we cannot accept this budget, because we have got no certainty that the 142 billion rands is going to be used correctly. Why? NSFAS has a middleman of a middleman of a middleman. Thank you.
Maphuza sho sihlelonzi la abaleke ngendlela eyisimanga. Yingakho ngithe ngaphambi singene kule nkinga esizokhuluma ngayo manje, ngoba lena inkinga. Asimcaphuni usihlelonzi, simcaphuna ngoba iEFF futhi portfolio committee yabo yonke, kodwa iEFF ivocal ekakhulukazi odabeni elithinta ama students. akusingokuqala kodwa nje sekukaningi sibezwa bekhuluma futhi bekhuluma izinto esizaziyo. So uSihle Lonzi ukhuluma ngoba usebenza kwi-portfolio committee, ukwi-portfolio committee ye-higher education and training. Lezi zinto lezi bayazibona kuma-oversight, izinto ababhekana nazo nsuku zonke lapho bezama ukulekelela khona ama-student. Into engizoyenza manje ngizocaphuna umuntu osebenza obesebenza akasasebenzi manje khona, obesebenza kuyisitha. Ngoba ngithatha ivideo yabantu ngicabanga ukuthi odlala i-audio yakhe, ngibalekela indaba ye-copyright ukuthi bangangigijimisi. Sizothatha nje audio yakhe wena ngoba inkulumo yonke uzoyizwa ngoba futhi kwayena bamfihlile, ngizokukhombisa yena bamfihlile ngoba bevikela ubuso bakhe. Sizothatha i-audio kuye ngoba ngifisa le nkulumo uyizwe eyi-expose le corruption eshiwoyo le bishiwo uSihle Lonzi, le middleman of the middleman and the middleman uzoyizwa ukuthi isebenza kanjani. La ma-companies awu-4 okuyiwona ukuthi i-NSFAS mayibhadala imali idlule kubo before iphuma kubo iphume kubo iphume kwalaba iphume kulaba before ifika kuma-student. Le nto eyenza i-delay kuma-student. Ngifisa ukukucaphunela-ke umuntu ozoyichaza kangcono asho ukuthi yenzekala kanjani, yenziwe nini, bayenza kanjani. Yingakho kubalulekile ukuthi ngaphambi sikhulume nje ngominister nokubaleka kwakhe. Ngenzela ukuthi ekugcineni kosuku uma uqeda le video ubusu-understanda kungani uminister wayiqoke laba abantu abangama-cadres we-ANC ukuthi ababe o-chairperson bamabhodi. Ngifisa namhlanje ngizokukhemvela isizathu sokuthi why uminister bekaqoke specifically labantu ayebaqokile.
Day, here we are, 7 years later, still uncovering so much rot in various seaters. But the sad thing is the services seater continues to be as rotten as it is. But keep digging, and there'll be more episodes to flow from this, I'm sure, shortly. Thanks, really.
Thank you.
So now I'm going to have a discussion with someone we'll call Miss Sampson. Her face will be disguised for personal reasons, but we're quite sure that the perpetrators who we are talking about in this expose of the corruption that's been taking place at Services CETA will know who she is. She's a brave soul. She and 2 other whistleblowers entered our office in 2018. Miss Sampson, I want to firstly thank you for taking the time to come here and speak out, because it's so important that the public and the authorities get to understand the people, the pain, the real issues behind the scenes and what has actually happened and transpired that has literally ruined your life. So thank you for being brave. Thank you for stepping up. But tell us, take us back to that day. What made you, what compelled you and your 2 colleagues to come and see Outer and give us the information that sparked a whole series of exposés that have led to the dismissal and resignations of people in senior positions down the line, appointed by Bladen Zamande, by the way, the Minister of Higher Education at the time. We would not have got to where we are on so many of these exposés if it wasn't for that day. Tell us about that day you came in. Why?
Thanks for having me. What a journey it has been.
Ngoba ivideo bengichazile ukuthi akuyona yami. Into esizoyenza la extract audio from le video. Bengifuna ukuthi uyibone i-channel Outer. Ungahamba uyibheka khona amanye ama-episode bawakhavile, eziningi izinto abazikhavile. Ngathi bayikhampani ebuyidile nangu-investigator. So anginasho kahle kodwa ngizwa makuthiwa babikela bona ba-investigate. So ungahamba ufike ubheke khona. Into engizoyenza manje extract i-audio ngoba into ebalekile ukuthi size ukuthi uthini usisi lo. Uma yonke le nkinga kade ikhulunywa uSihle Lonzi lapha nge-NSFAS engakhokhi ngesikhathi, nge-NSFAS kwenzakala lo sisi lo bekasebenza lapha phakathi. So uzoyichaza kahle yonke lento ukuthi yenzaka kanjani, kwenzakalani. Njengoba ubuzwa kuthiwa kunama-billions abuyiselwa back ku-National Treasury, akulona iqiniso lelo. Awabuyiselwa ama-billions lawa ngoba bengenayo proper planning. Abuyiselwa ngoba bafuna ukwenza i-cover up futhi obani abayenzayo bayenza kanjani. Ilokho nje ngifisa kuveza usisi. Ingakho ngithe kubalekile khona ukuthi ngikhulume nodaba lika minister ukuthi akavelanga portfolio committee. Kodwa ngifisa manje uqonda isizathu esokwenza ukuthi why uminister wayifuna ukuqoka ama-cadres we-ANC. Why kwakufanele kube ngama-cadres we-ANC aye lapha kuma-sita boards. Kungani? Ileso sizathu esizosiveza kule episode ukuthi kungani uminister wakhetha ukuqoka ama-cadres we-ANC. Cela uzweke.
An uneasy journey that we needed to travel, leading to the events on the day where we took a decision, a sober decision for that matter, to expose graft within the services SETA. You ought to know and appreciate the mandate of the SETAs. They were established as a result of the past difficulties faced by the country and as a measure to address the issue of youth unemployment and participation in the mainstream economy. So when you see monies that are meant to empower our people going in a direction in which they're not supposed to, you start paying attention. You start asking serious and difficult questions.
So what was your role and what did you see?
We started seeing the abuse of public funds. We started seeing a culture of empowering friends and families.
Yeah.
We started seeing a culture of bullying those that understood the mandate of the SETA. We started seeing a capture of its own kind, in which it was probably orchestrated with the intention to plunder the public purse.
Yeah.
Now, the board came in 2013 with a term of 5 years. So it means their term was coming to an end in 2018. And they were led by a gentleman called Themba Mhambi.
Themba Mhambi is also the current chairperson of SANRAL.
That's correct.
An organization we've accused of gross overreach while he's been the board. But
That's
anyway.
correct. So he came in with his board in 2013, and they appointed the CFO at the time because we had just come out of administration in 2013. So they appointed the CFO, and they would have appointed the acting CEO to oversee the executive management team of the services SETA. The tender system became the order of the day, the manipulation thereof. And it was a cesspool, if you ask me.
Tell us some of those tenders, the amounts. What are we talking about? Companies' names, because I recall Grayson Reed was a company.
Grayson Reed was quite interesting because we conceptualized a process of paying stipends to learners so that there's no delays and they're able to attend classes, go to the workplaces and all of that. But it was then turned around to something that was going to benefit a few and not even the learners.
Yeah.
So Grayson Reed was appointed as service provider to disperse stipends on behalf of the services
And monitor their attendance.
yes,
and so
to
forth,
learners
yeah.
that were indentured in our programs at that time. And we had problems day one. And we started raising these problems to say that we are receiving calls from learners who are not receiving their stipends. Then we'd be sitting in meetings upon meetings upon meetings. And when we got to understand what the real intention was behind the appointment of service of this Grayson Reed, it was a shock of our lives, because we then understood that these people that are appointed to disburse these grants don't even have the necessary experience to do that.
Skills,
So they've never done it before.
Systems, everything.
Systems, and you name it. And you're talking about 10,000 learners at a go. So if you are a small company entrusted with such, how are you going to get it right when you've never done it before?
Yeah.
And we tried to make it work. It was not working
It was
because
a
there were no
failure.
systems at all.
Yeah.
Right. And
Was anyone held accountable? Was anybody for appointing Grayson Reed and making sure this project
No.
happened? No one was held accountable?
no one was held accountable. And in fact, I think I need to highlight this. Even those that would be serving on the BEC, the Bid
The Bid Evaluation
Evaluation
Committee.
Committees, would have been given the mandate upfront before before the BEC even says to say this is the company we want.
Yeah.
So as you do whatever your evaluations and all those processes, you must keep that in mind. How do I know that? That's the question you need to ask me.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you how.
Hayi kushobile usisi uzikhipha zonke uza nathi kahle yingakho ngithe ngoba ivideo yabantu kanti ngifisa ukuthi le information izwenke ngcono si-extract audio ngiyacela nje njengoba usabukela uqhubeke nje ulalele sizwe kahle ukuthi kwenzakalani lapha kungani NSFAS ikhokha late kungani ama-student esokola kangaka ngoba yonke lento into yamabomu njengoba usisi esho asiqhubeke.
So it's a committee comprising of 5-6 people who serve there and would have been given the mandate to ensure that this particular provider gets the allocation. One of them came to us and said, guys, I am worried. Now he's now
Worried
giving
about
us
what?
the internal operations of how these things are orchestrated,
Yeah.
saying to us, as we get nominated and appointed to serve on the BEC, we are given a mandate upfront to say that we are going to issue a tender. There's so many applicants, but you are to ensure that this one particular provider gets a favorable outcome. At first, we thought,
How do you do that?
how do you do that? And we're not even sure if we could trust him. We thought he may have been sent to test
Yeah,
our
test us,
thinking
okay.
and where our eyes were.
Yeah.
And we said, we can't trust you at this moment until you give us tangible evidence.
Yeah.
And indeed, he came back with
Yeah.
documents which are supposed to be confidential.
Yeah.
Brought them to our attention to say, this is the mechanisms of how we get
Yes.
these dodgy service providers appointed. We had to sit down now and say, how do we go about this?
Yeah.
Right? And we have to report this. We can't sit on this.
Who did you report it to?
It was on a Friday, I remember. We went to run back
To our offices.
to out, and we met with you
Yeah.
the first time. I
Yeah.
still remember when we had to explain what CETAs do
Yes,
and
yeah, I
all of
remember
that,
that.
because they are a complex animal in their nature. So we came and we shared that with you, and that was the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
The same individual came back with more, and when I say more, this is now no longer Grace and Read.
Yes, there were
Then there's
others.
now a tenders on branding materials that would
We
have
were
been
paying
pay-
5,000% more than what we should have for.
Yes, as you would have
Yeah,
seen in
yeah, in the
reports that were
reports,
later issued as a result of these investigations. And now this became more than we thought it would be. And we couldn't understand how the services sector could spend about 340 million or more towards branding.
Just towards branding.
Just towards
Services
branding.
Leader
It didn't make sense.
340
And
million rand.
We
My
still had to
goodness.
sit with this gentleman to say, are you sure this is what you guys approved in the BEC? He says, yes, this was approved. And he went further than that. He gave us proof of payments channeled towards the service providers who later got appointed.
This is Star Sound and Print.
That's
huh?
correct.
Right.
And we just couldn't believe it. And we took the second batch to you guys, and you did your investigations as expected, and you came out with your report. So before the issuing of the report by Outer, the services started making headlines with regards to Grace and Reed and the branding company. And now we started being looked at as suspects.
Yeah.
Or
So they must have worked out that you were giving us this information.
they must have. Then
Who's they, by the way? The CEO, CFO?
it would be the CEO at first. I remember she called us into a meeting trying to threaten people that are leaking information to Outer, and
Who was the CEO? at the time?
at that time the CEO was Miss Amanda Buzo. That was then followed by us being suspended.
Okay, so the CEO is suspended, the three of you.
The three of us.
On what allegation? What did they?
Oh, in
allege you'd
fact,
done?
the one whistleblower was suspended was suspended by Andile Nongoko.
Okay.
And
Andile was the CFO.
He was
at
the
time.
CEO at that time, because when he left for NSFAS, he left as CEO of the services SETA.
Yeah.
And the two of us were then suspended by Miss Amanda Buzo. That was in 2019. Remember, we paid you a visit in
Suspended,
2018.
but on what charges did they suspend you? Just on leaking information? Did they have evidence?
No, our charges had nothing to do with that. But we were then, I think God's grace will always be upon us, because someone from the legal service department came to us and said, these people are onto you.
Yeah.
And they can't find anything they can use against you. So they're going to look for just about anything that
you've done wrong.
they can use to get rid of you. And indeed they succeeded, because if you look at the charges, you'll cry.
Yeah.
You know, and we always say with my fellow whistleblowers that we are fortunate that our charges had nothing to do with maladministration or misusing of SETA funds or corruption or anything of that fashion. So you can see that indeed they had to look for something they could use
Minor,
against
yeah.
us, and they succeeded. And when you get charged, you already know that you're gone, because you've already been told that you are not coming back. We are going to make sure that you don't come back.
I want to start moving into what was happening, these appointments. And Andile Nongogo became the CEO.
That's correct.
Appointed by the board chair, the board Temba Mahambi, who was the chair, and you were then pushed out. But this corruption continued, and you were obviously very close to what was unfolding anyway inside the system.
Before we got pushed out, they had already made these appointments of the executive team. I remember that we were seeing an influx of people that used to work for the Auditor General, and they were occupying much senior positions within the organization. And the one that comes to mind would be the current CEO.
Who's that?
Sibusiso Dladla.
Okay.
He used to audit the services SETA on behalf of the Auditor General. Until then, he was appointed as manager at the services 10, one of the business units. Within a year, he was promoted to senior manager in the same unit. And then later on, he was promoted to executive manager in the same unit.
Which unit was that?
Planning,
Okay.
which is responsible for the annual performance of the services SETA,
Right.
and if we meet
So you
targets.
became the
and all of
executive
that.
manager. Planning
Yes.
and
So all of this happened within 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
We raised it to say that, how is this now happening? Obviously, we wouldn't have received the response that was expected.
But why couldn't he become that role, executive role?
At that time, we were looking at the speed in which he
Okay.
was climbing up the ladder.
All right.
But then we then referred the matter out to one of the authorities to look into the appointments of the services.
Which authority was
officials.
that?
That was the National Skills Authority.
Yeah, NSA.
And they came back with a report that said Amanda Buzo was not supposed to have been appointed executive manager, legal services.
Right.
That was before she became CEO.
Right.
But even after that report, she still occupied that position. Sibusiso Dladla was not supposed to have been.
Why not?
Because they didn't meet the requirements of those positions.
Okay.
The CFO is not supposed to be sitting in that position, and he's currently serving it on now.
And CFO was?
The CFO is Teola Matsebe,
Okay.
right? And then you have the executive manager in the office of the CEO. She also didn't qualify to serve in that position. And even after they received that report was issued, nothing was done. It was just ignored as if nothing happened.
So a lot of people pointed to senior positions who are not qualified for these positions, reports coming through from the NSA about this, and nothing happens. They
Nothing
just retain their positions.
We then approached the office of the public protector.
Right.
She comes to the same conclusion. Now, the chairperson of the board at that time is now Stephen de Vries. Stephen de Vries inherited a system that worked well for the cabal. And when I mean the cabal, I mean those that
We're put in there too.
yes, from 2013 up until he came in. And he must have been told this thing works. You just have
Don't
to
interfere. Yeah.
yes, just leave it as is. And he rode on that wave because nothing changed. If anything, the situation deteriorated, and the performance of the services SETA deteriorated. And when I say that, I mean they got qualified audits for 5 consecutive years.
5 years in a row while Stephen de Vries was there.
Yes. And now, this begs a question. Why was the minister quiet about all of this?
What's very important to note is that we've got number of reports that have shown that people were not qualified for these positions, these executive positions
Yeah.
at Service SETA. And the reality is that to this day, those people still occupy these positions. So there's been no accountability whatsoever. Everybody's dragging their feet. Right now, we don't even have boards that are appointed. They've got these executive powers and board powers
Yeah.
now. This is the current CEO who should not even be in that position.
He shouldn't be there. It was pointed out by the National Skills Authority, the Office of the Public Protector, the South African Qualifications Authority. Parliament is also aware that the current CEO should not be serving in that position. But for some reason, no one is saying anything. No one is doing anything about it. So if you look at the Werksman's report, it implicates a whole number of senior officials within the services SETA. While you expect that would have been dealt with as a result of their recommendations, which one of them was to refer the findings to South African Police Services, these people are getting promoted. They're now occupying much senior positions. One of the officials who's at the center of the branding scandal has now been promoted to executive manager. So she's being rewarded for looting the
How is that possible? And there's also Fukude, who was a service provider, who's JV. He was a member of a JV company that received up to 60 million rand from
Yes.
Service SETA.
and from
and-
being
and
a
yet-
from being a service provider, he became the CEO.
So you have somebody who earned a lot of money as a service provider to the the
Yes.
Service SETA is now the CEO.
Yes, and how were we going to get justice from a person who's also implicated in corruption within the services SETA? And it's not me now trying to defame him. There's a report by
There's
the
a
public
report out
protector
there.
to that effect.
Yeah.
It's a fact.
Yeah. You know, I just want to try and bring this together. What we have in Services SETA is just one of the others. There are lots of them that are in the same position, where nobody's taking action against very clearly and obviously implicated people, underqualified people, sitting there for years. And we have the audit findings against them, qualified audits, and everybody just looks away.
Looks away, especially it's
So there's plundering and there's corruption and maladministration and money that should not be going to where it's going right now as we speak. It certainly has in the last a number of years. And people like you and your other colleagues are just pushed out of this organization on minor trumped-up charges just to get you out the way because you're asking questions. We see this modus operandi everywhere. We've seen it at insurance SETA,
it's
we've
everywhere.
seen it at construction SETA, services SETA, and others.
You know, I want to first say to you, we wrote to Parliament in 2021, if I'm not mistaken, raising these issues. The Minister of Higher Education at that time, Blade Nzimande, was called in to respond to that which we had raised in our letter. He confirmed he saw the letter and he will respond, only for him to give us a quarter-page response,
Which said what?
responding to what we had raised with him.
And he fobbed it off.
Yeah, and
Pretty much fobbed it off.
one of the committee members is now the chairperson of the portfolio committee. So at that time, he was just an ordinary member of the committee. He's now the chairperson of the committee. He's fully aware of this.
Yeah. What's his name?
Tebo Letsie.
Okay, but let's see.
Fully aware of what has been happening in the services seat over a period of time. One would expect him to get a shock of his life, at least a normal or a human reaction to say, why are we still being addressed by these officials when we know they're not supposed to be there?
Yeah.
He's not saying anything. He calls them, they come there, they
explain themselves. Nothing happens.
Nothing happens.
He's not had the audacity and the moral courage to ask, why are these people that have been removed?
One would have
Why are the good
expected-
people who are exposing corruption being removed, and people who are not qualified, who are implicated in report after report, responsible for the maladministration, looking away, not holding the service providers to account when they
Nothing.
were told to do so, and the worksmen's reports,
Nothing.
everything. They remain in their positions, earning their fat salaries, and continuing to allow funds to flow where they shouldn't flow. This is the sign of an absolutely corrupt system right the way through to the top.
Yes.
You have people in positions of power like Bladen Zamande who also just looked away. And he fobbed us off when we started exposing Andile Nongogo at NSFAS. Eventually, he had no option but to fire him. I've said this a number of times. But so the cesspool, the tentacles of corruption, just in this one seat, and obviously all the others, here you are explaining this. Our view is this, and here I want to look at people in the face, people like the portfolio committee, like the ministers, the DGs, the president. You know, we need compensation for these whistleblowers whose lives have been ruined. Your life has been ruined.
It has been.
You've been unemployed. You've not been able to get a job.
Cabanga ukuthi into echazwe uSihlelonze njoba eluleka uminister le ngiqale ngayo ivideo mawusulalela futhi nalo sisiloyi whistleblower usuzwe ekhuluma ngalamasitha usuyaqonda manje ukuthi kungani uminister wayekhethe ama-cadres we-ANC ukuthi kube yiwona azoba uchairperson balamasitha board. Ngicabanga ukuthi manje suyasithola isizathu, suyas-understand isizathu ukuthi kungani babekhetha abangani babo. Okubuhlungu kunakho konke, iParliament le-aware kwenzakalani. Kodwa into ebuhlungu ngeParliament, it's a game of numbers. It's a game of numbers. So, ekugcineni kosuku noma uSihlelonze angaba namaphuzu angakanani. Uma sekuthiwa kuvotwe manje ukuthi into ethize ingenzeki noma yenzeke, ANC izovota ngobuningi bayo bamsane mhlambe namanye ama-political parties. Lokho kushiwo uSihlelonze bakunyathele ngenyawo. Kukhona le bill abayifakile la yama-student ukuthi bathi uhulumeni akangenelela shaya umthetho ukuthi ama-student, ama-graduates awanikezwe itifiketi zawo akwazi phela ukuthi ayofuna umsebenzi. Ngoba ama-university azibambile kumanje ugovernment uplane ukuspenda 700 million kwi-national dialogue ukuthi kukhulunywe nje ngibengekathathe 700 million abhele out ama-students ekugcineni makukhulunywa leyo ndaba leyo kuthiwa hayi uhulumeni akanamali. So ezinye zezizathu lezi ezenza ukuthi ngithi ngaphambi basikhulume ngominister ukufika kwakhe nokungafiki kwakhe kwi-committee, kubalulekile ukuthi sikhulume ngale ndaba eyenzakalayo ukuze siqonde ukuthi ingoba kwenze njani. Ngiyacela ukuphawula kwakho kulolu daba esikhuluma ngalo. Mina nawe bese sidibana kwivideo elandelayo. Ngiyabonga kakhulu.